She said she loved you, remember? That night when her eyes shimmered like truth and you actually believed her. You believed her when she said, "You're different." You believed her when she swore, "I'd never hurt you." And yet she did. Not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly, like poison disguised as warmth. Now you can't even hate her properly, can you? Because part of you still waits for her to come back. You scroll through old messages pretending you don't care. You replay her voice in your head wondering what you did wrong. And every time someone mentions her name, it's like your chest forgets how to breathe. But here's the truth no one ever told you. She never left because you weren't enough. She left because you finally became too real. You showed her the parts she couldn't fake love for. The parts that required effort, patience, and loyalty. And she wasn't built for that kind of love. You were the test she couldn't pass. The calm she couldn't understand. The silence she couldn't manipulate. That's why she ran. That's why they always run from men who can't be controlled. Because deep down, she wanted power, not peace. And when she realized she couldn't control you anymore, she tried to destroy you just to feel powerful again. But here's where you win. You survived. You kept breathing through nights that felt endless. You rebuilt yourself from the pieces she left behind. You walked through fire, and instead of turning to ash, you turned to iron. Now she'll scroll past your name and feel that quiet sting of regret. She'll wonder how the man who once begged to stay now moves like he never needed her at all. And she'll hate that, because nothing haunts a woman more than the silence of a man she thought she broke. But before we go deeper, I want you to do one thing. Comment the last thing she said to you before she walked away. Write it down. Let it burn on the screen like a scar that finally speaks. Because this video isn't just a story. It's your story, rewritten through strength, truth, and awakening. And if you're ready to stop bleeding for people who never cared, if you're ready to finally understand why she left and why you'll never be the same again, then don't just watch, listen, because what comes next will explain everything she never could. You're not here by accident. You're here because your heart still remembers what it felt like to be betrayed. And this time, you're going to learn how to never let it happen again. Subscribe now because the truth starts right here. 1. They say you're intimidating, but what they really mean... Have you ever noticed how some women say, "You're intimidating," but there's a hint of fascination in their voice? Like they're not sure whether to fear you or to want you. But here's the truth. When a woman says you're intimidating, what she really means is this: you make me feel things I can't control. It's not about your height, your body, or your looks. It's about energy, the kind of presence that can't be faked, the type of silence that demands respect, the kind of calm that makes noise feel unnecessary. Most men talk too much, chase too quickly, or try too hard to impress. But the man she calls intimidating? He doesn't need to say much. His presence already speaks for him. Think about it. In cities like London or Los Angeles, women are surrounded by men who are desperate for validation, texting nonstop, posting gym selfies, bragging about money they don't even have. But then she meets you. You don't seek her approval. You don't chase. You move with purpose like a man who has already chosen himself before anyone else. And that's why she calls you intimidating. Because you remind her of what true masculinity feels like. A sense of quiet strength that doesn't need to prove itself. She's not scared of you. She's scared of how she feels around you. Scared because her little games, her tricks, her emotional tests, they don't work. You don't bite. You don't flinch. You just stay calm. You're not emotionally available on demand, and that makes you rare. That makes you unpredictable. That makes you dangerous. You see, most men collapse the moment a woman pulls away. They panic, start begging for attention, or try to fix what was never broken. But the stoic man, the intimidating one, he does nothing. He lets her go if she wants, because he understands something most men don't. Attachment is weakness when it's not reciprocated. Women call that intimidating because it forces them to confront a truth they don't like. That their beauty alone doesn't control you. You're not moved by lust. You're not manipulated by affection. You operate on principle, not emotion. And that's terrifying to someone used to controlling men with her charm. It's not dominance. It's discipline. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. You simply know your worth and you never beg to be understood. That's what intimidating truly means. It means you've mastered the art of emotional detachment in a world that worships validation. It means you've learned how to stay calm when others crumble, how to walk away when others chase chaos, how to maintain peace even when temptation calls. So when she says you're intimidating, don't take it as an insult. Take it as proof that your energy is different. It's not toxic, it's powerful, because it's the energy of a man who doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. And deep down, she respects that. She might even crave it, because women are not attracted to weakness. They're drawn to strength disguised as stillness. You've simply stopped performing and started being. That's what scares her. That's what attracts her. That's what she really means. It's not your muscles, it's your stability. Women will tell you they love muscles, nice cars, or success. But what truly pulls them in is stability. Emotional stability, mental stability. A man who isn't shaken by life's chaos. Picture this, she's dated men who were good-looking, even rich, but they were emotionally weak. One argument and they'd explode. One rejection and they'd spiral. One cold text and they'd lose all composure. But then she meets a man who doesn't react, who stays calm, grounded, unshaken, and suddenly, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels safe. It's not the six-pack that makes her melt. It's the peace in your eyes when everyone else is losing their minds. That's what a stoic man offers. He's not emotionally numb. He just refuses to let emotions rule him. When she throws a test at you, you don't fight it. You just smile. When she pulls away, you don't chase. You stay centered. You let her realize on her own that you're not moved by her chaos, because your peace is your power. In cities like New York, Toronto, or Sydney, women live in constant emotional noise, social media drama, attention-chasing men, endless validation loops. It's all chaos. But when she meets a man whose world doesn't revolve around her, who moves with quiet focus, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Order. That's what she finds attractive. A man who doesn't flinch when tested, who doesn't lose control when provoked, a man who doesn't argue to prove he's right. He just walks away, because his time is too valuable to waste on noise. That's the modern stoic man. He doesn't flex his strength, he radiates it. He doesn't demand attention, he earns respect. He doesn't seek control, he embodies it. And that's what women crave most, even if they'll never admit it. Because stability is rare, it's quiet, it's invisible, and yet it's magnetic. Every woman wants to feel secure, not just financially, but emotionally. When she says, "I feel calm around you," that's not small talk. That's her subconscious saying, "I trust your leadership. I feel safe in your energy." Because your peace tells her something money never can. That you are not a man the world can easily shake. And here's the truth most men never learn. Women don't fall in love with the man who makes their heart race. They fall in love with the one who makes their mind rest. It's not your muscles. It's your stability. It's your ability to remain still while others drown in emotion. It's your control that makes you magnetic. Your calm that makes you irresistible. And your discipline that makes you unforgettable. You're intimidating because of what you don't do. You see, the most dangerous men are not the ones who shout, chase, or fight. They're the ones who don't react. When a woman tests you, flirts with your boundaries, or tries to provoke emotion, and you respond with silence, calmness, or a small, knowing smile, that's when she realizes you're not like the rest. In a world where most men act out of insecurity, the man who does nothing, who chooses control over chaos, becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability, my friend, is power. When she says you're hard to read, it's not confusion and it's fascination. Because women are used to controlling men through emotion. They know how to push buttons. They know how to get a reaction. But when you don't give them one, they're forced to sit with themselves. They start to feel exposed, and because their usual tactics don't work. In London, she's dated men who argued over texts. In Los Angeles, she met men who fell apart after being ignored. But you're different. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain. You're the stillness in her storm. And that drives her crazy in a way she doesn't understand. Your power doesn't come from dominance. It comes from restraint. You've mastered the art of holding back, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You know that emotional control is not weakness and it's weaponry. A woman might call you cold, but what she really means is, I can't manipulate you. She might call you distant, but what she really means is, you're not emotionally available on my terms. And that's the exact reason she keeps thinking about you. Because when a man stops being easily controlled, he becomes a mystery. And nothing attracts the feminine mind more than a mystery it can't solve. You're intimidating not because of what you do, but because of what you don't. You don't fight over words. You don't justify your actions. You don't beg for closure. You don't chase validation. You simply walk away when something doesn't align with your peace. And that's when she starts chasing you, because now she's the one who feels uncertain. She's the one overthinking, replaying conversations in her head, wondering why her charm didn't work. That's the secret. The Stoic power lies in non-reaction. You've mastered what Marcus Aurelius once said. You have power over your mind, not outside events. And when a man finally understands that, he becomes untouchable, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. That's why you're intimidating. Not because you're cruel, but because you're calm. Not because you don't care, but because you don't need to prove you care. You simply are. Oh, you've learned to be alone. This one is the cornerstone of a man's strength. Solitude. A man who can't sit in silence is a man who doesn't yet know himself. But a man who has faced loneliness and made peace with it becomes unstoppable. In a world obsessed with constant connection, likes, messages, validation, the man who finds peace alone stands out like fire in the dark. You see, most men fear being alone because they mistake it for isolation. But solitude isn't loneliness. It's power. It's the training ground for kings. You've learned how to enjoy your own company, to sit in a quiet room in Manchester or New York with nothing but your thoughts and feel at peace. You don't need her constant attention, her reassurance, or her presence to feel alive, because you've already built a life that fulfills you. That's why women find you intimidating. She looks at you and feels it instantly. The stillness, the confidence, the lack of need. You don't depend on anyone to validate your worth. You've become complete without external approval, and that terrifies her. Because she knows she can't control a man who doesn't crave company. She can't threaten to leave. Because you've already made peace with being alone. She can't manipulate with silence because you've learned to love it. She can't use distance as punishment because you thrive in it. That's what women secretly find magnetic. Not the man surrounded by people, but the man who can walk alone and still radiate peace. Because solitude shapes character. It strengthens the mind. It builds self-respect. When you're alone, you see your flaws clearly. You heal from past chaos, you grow. And when you finally re-enter the world, when you speak, when you move, when you look into her eyes, she feels that grounded energy. The kind that can only come from a man who's fought his demons and won quietly. That's why she calls you intimidating. Because you've mastered yourself. You no longer seek her validation. You choose connection only when it adds value to your peace. Remember this. The man who cannot walk alone will always crawl back to chaos. But the man who embraces solitude becomes a storm in stillness. 5. You're not angry when you're detached. There's a huge difference between anger and detachment. But women, and even most men, often confuse the two. When she tests you, pushes your limits, or tries to make you jealous and you simply smile, she calls you cold. But you're not cold. You're in control. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've learned not to be ruled by what you feel. That's emotional mastery. And that's the essence of Stoicism. In your past, maybe you reacted. Maybe you argued, shouted, or tried to explain yourself to someone who had already made up her mind. But not anymore. Now you understand that anger feeds her ego, while silence protects your energy. She expects drama, but you give her peace. She wants to provoke emotion, but you give her stillness. And that's what unsettles her the most. Because detachment kills manipulation. She can't play games with a man who's already won the inner war. She can't make you chase because you no longer seek her approval. She can't make you jealous because you no longer compare yourself to anyone. You've learned the Stoic principle that all pain comes from attachment to people, outcomes, or expectations. Once you release those, you stop suffering. You stop reacting. You stop losing control. In London cafes, women gossip about how certain men seem heartless. They call them emotionless, unavailable. But what they don't realize is that's strength. That's maturity. That's the quiet confidence of a man who no longer allows chaos to live rent-free in his mind. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing women, women start chasing you. Because detachment is power. It's the ability to walk away, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. You're not angry. You've just stopped giving your energy to people who don't deserve it. You've stopped arguing to prove your worth. You've stopped explaining your value to those too blind to see it. And that's why you intimidate her. Because you're no longer a boy seeking attention. You've become a man seeking peace. And that kind of man can't be broken, manipulated, or replaced. That's the ultimate Stoic strength. Not loud dominance, but silent control. The kind of presence that doesn't shake when tested, doesn't crumble when abandoned, and doesn't react when provoked. Because peace is the final form of power, final words. So the next time you hear "you're intimidating," just nod and say, "No, I'm just not what you're used to." Because a real man doesn't seek to be understood. He seeks to be aligned with truth, with purpose, with self-control. And that alignment is what makes you powerful, peaceful, and impossible to replace. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.